The Curse of Blood and Bone. When the Alpha trained his daughters to become monsters. Part 1. The curse broke on the night my sister bled for the first time. Not moonblood, warblood. The kind that comes from killing, from fang and claw, and the specific sacred violence that makes wolves more than animal. She was 14, the youngest of our generation, and she tore out a raider's throat while our mother watched, hands pressed to her own pregnant belly, feeling the curse continue its work. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another story here on the channel. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Seriously, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. I absolutely love seeing where you all are tuning in from. And how are you doing today? I hope you're cozy, maybe with some tea or hot chocolate, because this one is going to take you on quite the ride. Oh, and before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next in this tale. This channel is all about those intense, emotional, can't look away stories, and your support means everything. 1 male, 5 females. The ratio that had destroyed packs before ours, that had made our territory prey for generations, that our enemies thought made us weak. They were wrong, but they didn't know it yet. I am Kale, second son of the second litter, first male born to the Ashfall pack in 7 years. My father is Torin, the alpha who refused surrender, who looked at the curse that made his daughters outnumber his sons 5 to 1 and saw not weakness but weapon. The raiders came on the night of the red moon. The blood-rich pack, smelling our imbalance, our feminine vulnerability, our supposed inability to defend what was ours. They came with 30 males, battle-hardened, hungry for territory and the specific resource they thought we couldn't protect. Our women. They didn't know about the training. The secret, desperate, blasphemous training that my father had begun 3 years ago, when the curse's pattern became clear and the elders demanded we merge with another pack, accept protection, survive through submission. My father chose war. I watched from the ridge as the raiders approached. Watched my sisters, my pack, move through the forest like smoke, like shadow, like the specific terrible grace of predators who had been underestimated for too long. Mira, firstborn, 17. She led the eastern flank, her wolf form larger than any male's, her fangs grown sharp from the bone meal my father had fed her, the training that had changed her. Sarah, second, 16. The trapmaker, the patient one, the wolf who could wait in absolute stillness until the enemy walked past, then rise from leaf litter like vengeance itself. The others, third, fourth, fifth, each with their specialty, their monster, their transformation from curse statistic into killing song. And Lyra, 14. The youngest, the one who bled warblood tonight for the first time, who proved that the curse could be not just survived but weaponized. The raiders entered the kill zone, felt the forest go quiet, too quiet, the specific silence of hunted becoming hunter. Then my father howled. Not command release. The sound that let his daughters become what he had made them. The massacre was not quick. My father had trained them to be thorough, to be remembered, to make the cost of underestimating Ashfall so terrible that no other pack would try. I participated. Second son, first male, the proof that the curse hadn't eliminated us entirely. I fought beside my sisters, felt their fury, their specific rage at being seen as resource rather than wolf. We won. Of course we won. 30 males against 15 females, if you counted my mother, pregnant and fighting anyway, and the elder aunts who had demanded to be trained, who had begged for the chance to become dangerous. None of us died. That was the miracle. The specific, terrible efficiency of my father's training, the transformation of curse into strategy, of biological accident into military revolution. The raiders died. All of them. Their bodies left at the territory border, message and warning, demonstration of what female wolves could become when desperation met invention. After we gathered at the longhouse, bloodied, victorious, changed. My sisters shifted to human forms that bore scars they wore with pride. My mother, breathing hard, hands still pressed to her belly where the next generation grew. More females, we all knew, the curse continuing its work. My father stood before us. Torin the cursed, they had called him. Torin the doomed, who refused to merge, to submit, to accept the fate of packs with too many daughters. He looked at his family, at the monsters he had made, at the hope that desperation had created. The blood-rich pack will not be the last, he said. The curse makes us target. Our ratio makes us prey in the eyes of every hungry alpha, every desperate pack, every wolf who thinks females are resource rather than threat. He paused, amber eyes finding each of us in turn. But we have demonstrated. We have proven. And now we prepare for what comes next. What comes next? I asked. First male, second son, voice of a generation that had never known anything but this desperate innovation. My father smiled. Fierce, sad, ancient in a way that made my skin prickle with recognition of something I didn't yet understand. War, he said. True war. Not raiders, not opportunists, but crusade. The packs who have heard what we did tonight will not accept it. They will see our demonstration as threat, as blasphemy, as disruption of the natural order that keeps females safe and males dominant. He touched my shoulder, then Myra's, connecting us across the gender the curse had made imbalanced. They will come to destroy us, to prove that our victory was fluke, that our training was fraud, that our females are still prey despite what we showed tonight. Let them come, Myra said. 17 bloodied, hungry for the next fight. Let them learn what we are. They will, my father agreed. And we will teach them. But first, he turned to the elder aunts, the ones who remembered, who had preserved knowledge through generations of silence. We learn what this curse truly is, why it comes, why it chose us, and whether it can be transformed. The aunts looked at each other. At my mother, pregnant, bearing the next generation of curse. At my sisters, monstrous, bearing the consequences of my father's training. Once, the eldest said, every 2,000 years the balance breaks. The mother wolf, source of all packs, stirs in her sleep. She dreams of change, of evolution, of possibility beyond the pattern that has governed us. And in her dreaming she curses the bloodlines that have become stagnant, too male, too dominant, too certain of their way. She curses them with females? I asked. With daughters. With necessity, the aunt corrected. With the specific terrible gift of being forced to transform, to innovate, to become what survival demands rather than what tradition allows. She looked at my sisters, at their scars, their power. The curse is not punishment, young male. It is invitation. Evolution's knife, cutting away what no longer serves. My father listened, absorbed, transformed understanding into strategy as he always had. Then we accept the invitation, he said. We become what the curse demands. Not victims of imbalance, but revolutionaries of possibility. We train every female from first blood to final breath. We make Ashfall not just pack but school. Not just territory but demonstration of what wolves can become. He looked at me. At his only son, his male heir, the one who would traditionally inherit, command, dominate. You will train beside them, he said. Not above. Not separate. You will learn what they learn, become what they become. Share the power that the curse has forced us to discover. He paused, amber eyes burning with the specific, terrible vision that had made him alpha despite all odds. And when the crusade comes, you will fight as pack. As equals. As monsters that no traditional wolf can comprehend. I looked at my sisters. At Mira, Sarah, Lyra. At the blood still drying on their fangs, the victory still burning in their eyes. The future they represented that no male-dominated pack had ever imagined. I knelt. Not to my father, to them. To the specific terrible power that the curse had created, that my father's training had focused, that our survival now depended upon. I am yours, I said. We are pack. We are Ashfall. And we will teach them all. The crusade came 3 months later. 12 packs united, 200 males, the largest war party assembled in living memory. They came not just to destroy us but to erase us. To prove that our demonstration was anomaly, that our females were still prey, that the natural order would assert itself through sufficient violence. They found the forest empty, the longhouse abandoned, the territory surrendered without fight. Then they found the trap. My father's strategy refined through 3 months of desperate innovation. The females, our monsters, our curse-made weapon, had become not just fighters but forest. Had learned to move through territory like wind, like water, like the specific terrible absence that makes prey realize too late that they are hunted. The massacre lasted 2 days. Not battle, harvest. My sisters, my mother, my pregnant aunts and trained cousins, moving through the crusade like death itself, unmaking 200 males through patience, through precision, through the specific violence that desperation had taught us. I fought beside them, bled beside them, killed beside them, the traditional male, the supposed protector, becoming student of what protection could become when gender was not limit but resource. We won. Of course we won. But victory was not the point. The point was demonstration. The point was making the cost of attacking Ashfall so terrible, so unthinkable, that the curse would become not target but deterrent. After we gathered among the dead, 200 males who had underestimated us, who had seen our ratio as weakness, our females as resource, our curse as invitation to plunder. My father stood among his daughters, among his monsters, among the evolution that desperation and innovation had created. The curse continues, he said, looking at my mother's belly, at the next generation growing there. Undoubtedly more female, more necessity, more invitation to transform. Every 2,000 years the mother wolf stirs. She curses stagnant bloodlines with imbalance, forces innovation, demands evolution. He touched the nearest corpse, a male who had died believing in traditional power. We have answered. We have become what she demands. And now, he looked at the horizon, at the territories beyond, At the packs who had not yet heard what Ashfall had demonstrated. We teach others to answer as well. Teach? Mira asked. The packs who attacked us? The males who would destroy us? All of them, my father said. The curse is not punishment. It is gift. And gifts must be shared, or they become prisons. He turned to me. To his son, his male heir, who had learned to fight as female, to lead as equal, to become what the curse demanded rather than what tradition allowed. You will travel, he said. You and your sisters. To the packs who will listen. To the alphas who face their own curses, their own imbalances, their own necessity for transformation. You will teach what we have learned. You will make Ashfall not just territory but principle. Not just survival but revolution. I felt the weight of it. The responsibility. The specific, terrible honor of being the male who would demonstrate that masculinity was not dominance but partnership. Not protection but shared guardianship. I will, I said. We will. My sisters gathered. Mira, Sarah, Lyra, the others. The monsters my father had made. The curse he had weaponized. The evolution that necessity had demanded. We became teachers. Warriors. Demonstration of what wolves could become when they stopped fearing imbalance and started using it. And the curse? The specific, terrible 2,000-year cycle of the mother wolf's dreaming? It became our ally. Our signature. The reason packs listened when Ashfall spoke. The reason alphas considered when we taught. The reason the revolution my father had begun in desperate innovation became movement across all territories. The curse of blood and bone. The gift of necessity. The evolution that made monsters, then made those monsters teachers. We are Ashfall. We are the curse answered. We are the future that the mother wolf dreamed, waking now after 2,000 years of sleep, finding her children worthy of what she demanded. And we are not finished. Part 2. The teaching began with resistance. We traveled to the first pack, Stone River, traditional, male-dominated. Their alpha, a wolf named Garrett, who had heard rumors of Ashfall's unnatural females and wanted to see if the rumors were true. He expected performance. Entertainment. Freaks to amuse his warriors before they returned to proper hunting. Mira killed his second in 30 seconds. Not demonstration, correction. The second had suggested, with smile and insinuation, that he would test her skills personally in private, away from the formality of combat. She broke his arm first. Then his jaw. Then, when he shifted to heal and attack, she broke his spine with a specific, efficient technique my father had developed for ending threats permanently. Garrett stared. His pack. 40 males hardened by border wars and territorial disputes stared at the female who stood over their second's corpse, licked blood from her fangs, and waited for the next challenger. There is no next, I said, stepping forward. The male voice, the traditional authority, used now to protect rather than dominate. My sister has demonstrated. You can continue to challenge and she will continue to correct. Or you can listen and learn what the curse has taught us. Garrett's ears flattened. His tail, instinct, ancient biological, tucked slightly. Not submission. Recognition. The specific, terrible understanding that his pack, his power, his certainty were suddenly insufficient. What curse? He asked. I told him. The mother wolf cycle. The 2,000-year stirring. The specific imbalance that forced innovation, that made necessity the mother of evolution. I told him about my sisters, my training, the war that had made us more than traditional wolves could comprehend. And I told him about the future. The packs who would face their own curses, their own imbalances, their own invitations to transform. The choice between desperate innovation and comfortable extinction. Garrett listened. Not converted, calculating. The alpha's mind always seeking advantage, always weighing cost against benefit. You want to train my females, he said. Not asking. We want to teach you to train them, I corrected. The transformation cannot be imported. It must be grown, nourished, owned by the pack that undergoes it. And if I refuse? Mira smiled. The expression that had made hardened warriors void their bowels. Then the next crusade will find you. Not Ashfall's vengeance, nature's. The curse comes to all stagnant bloodlines, Alpha Garrett. It is already stirring in your territory. You have felt it, yes? The litter's increasingly female. The males weaker, fewer, insufficient to traditional demands. Garrett's silence was confirmation. The curse worked subtly at first, gradually, inevitably until the imbalance became crisis. We can teach you to use it, I continued. To transform necessity into advantage. To make your females not burden but blade. Garrett looked at his pack. At the 40 males who had watched their second die to a female, who were reconsidering everything they knew about power, about gender, about possibility. Teach, he said. But I will watch. I will judge. And if this is trick, if this is Ashfall's method of weakening rivals through false hope, then your females will be strong enough to stop us, Mira finished. That is the beauty of the transformation, Alpha Garrett. It cannot be faked. It cannot be imposed. It can only be demonstrated and chosen and grown. We stayed 3 months. Garrett watched, judged, feared what we represented. But his females, his daughters, his mates, his hidden strength learned, transformed, became what necessity demanded. By the 2nd month, his 3rd daughter could defeat his 1st son. By the 3rd, his mate could hold territory against raiders while his males hunted. Garrett changed. Not instantly, not completely, evolution is gradual, painful, specific to each pack's needs. But he began to see, to understand that the curse was not enemy but invitation. Not weakness but potential. We left Stone River transformed. Not Ashfall's copy, Stone River's evolution, their own answer to the curse, their own demonstration of what females could become. The movement began. Slow, resisted, dangerous to those who taught it. We traveled to 7 packs that first year. 3 accepted. 4 rejected, 3 of those attacking us, 2 of those losing to what they had refused to learn. My sisters were wounded. Not killed, we had become too skilled, too efficient, too practiced at survival against superior numbers. But scarred. Changed. Hardened by the violence that tradition used to protect itself. Lyra, youngest, most monstrous, began to question. We teach transformation, she said, on the night of our 7th battle, bleeding from a male's fang that had found her throat before she found his heart. But we also teach killing. We demonstrate evolution through corpse. Is this what the mother wolf intended? I had no answer. My father had not prepared me for philosophy, for ethics, for the weight of demonstrating possibility through destruction. Mira answered. Firstborn, most certain, most committed to my father's vision. The mother wolf intended survival, she said. Not gentle. Not kind. Survival. The transformation that necessity demands, regardless of cost. She touched Lyra's wound, the blood still flowing. The specific vulnerability that even monsters must acknowledge. We die or they die. The curse offers no third path. But there was. I felt it, in the nights between battles, in the silence after demonstrations. The possibility that teaching could become invitation rather than correction, that evolution could be chosen rather than forced, that the curse could be understood rather than weaponized. I spoke to my father, when we returned to Ashfall for the winter gathering, told him about Lyra's question, about my doubt, about the weight of corpse demonstration. He listened. The alpha who had made monsters, who had transformed curse into strategy, who had built revolution from desperation. The curse is not weapon, he said finally. We made it weapon. The mother wolf's invitation is not to kill but to become, to grow beyond what stagnation allowed. He touched my shoulder, the specific rare contact that meant approval, concern, love in the language he had taught us. If you find another way, my son, my student, my equal, take it. The curse is not my creation. It is only my answer. Your answer may be different. Better. I left Ashfall that winter with new purpose. Not to demonstrate through victory but to invite through possibility. To find packs before the curse became crisis. To teach transformation before necessity became desperate. To make evolution gentle rather than violent. My sisters came with me. Mira skeptical, loyal. Sarah patient, willing. Lyra wounded, hopeful that another way existed. We found it in the Valley of Thorns. A pack led not by alpha but by council, male and female together. The curse's imbalance answered through distribution rather than concentration. No single leader. No single monster. Shared power, shared protection, shared evolution. They called it the balance. Not the traditional balance of male dominance but new balance, earned balance, the specific equilibrium that came from recognizing each wolf's contribution regardless of gender. I learned there. We all learned. That the curse could be answered differently. That the mother wolf's invitation was not single path but possibility. That Ashfall's monsters were one answer among many, necessary for our desperation but not universal for all conditions. The Valley of Thorns became our second school. Not replacement for Ashfall but expansion, alternative demonstration that evolution could evolve. And in the learning I found something unexpected. Something the curse had made rare. My father's training had made complicated. My own transformation had made possible. Love. Not pack love, not family love, not the necessity of survival bond. The specific, terrible, individual love that recognizes another as equal, as partner, as chosen rather than assigned. Her name was Kale. Female, yes, but that was not the point. The point was her difference, her specificity. The way she moved through the balance like wind through grass, touching everything, belonging nowhere and everywhere. She challenged me. Not in combat, in certainty. Questioning Ashfall's methods, the Valley's alternatives, the fundamental assumption that the curse required answer at all. What if, she said on the night we first spoke alone, the curse is not invitation but mirror. Not demand for transformation but reflection of what already exists, what we already are, made visible through imbalance. I did not understand. Not then. But I remembered her words, her question, the specific doubt she planted in my certainty. The curse continued. Packs transformed or resisted, or destroyed themselves in the attempt to maintain tradition against necessity. We taught, demonstrated, invited. Ashfall's way, the Valley's way, the possibility that each pack could find their own. And I loved. Continued to love. Built with Kale something that was not pack, not family, not survival, but choice. Specific, limited, absolutely real choice to be together, to grow together, to evolve together. She became pregnant. The curse's pattern continuing. More female than male, more necessity than tradition, more invitation to transform. But this time I was ready. Not to make monster but to nurture possibility. Not to weaponize desperation but to cultivate evolution. The child would be what the mother wolf dreamed. What the curse invited. What love finally understood could grow. Part 3. The revelation came with the birth. Not the child's gender, female as expected, as invited. The revelation came with her eyes. Pale gold. Not the amber of our line. Not the specific color that marked Ashfall blood. And in her gaze the memory. Images that could not be hers, could not be new, could not be anything but what the curse truly was. The mother wolf dreaming. Stirring after 2,000 years. Choosing bloodlines not randomly but specifically, not universally but targeted. The curse was not natural. Not biological, not inevitable, not evolution's impersonal mechanism. It was deliberate. The mother wolf's specific, terrible selection of packs who had become stagnant, dominant, certain of their way. Her punishment, her correction, her forced innovation delivered through the only method that could not be ignored. Imbalance. Necessity. The desperation that made transformation possible. Kale saw it too. In our daughter's eyes, in the memory she carried. In the truth that the curse revealed to those it touched most closely. She is not just cursed, Kale whispered, holding our child, our invitation, our specific terrible gift. She is messenger. The mother wolf's own voice made flesh, made present in our pack. I understood finally what Kale had questioned. What the curse truly was. Not mirror but message, not reflection but communication. Not evolution's mechanism but deity's intervention. The mother wolf was real. Not metaphor, not story, not convenient explanation for biological anomaly. Real, present, acting through the curse to transform her children. And our daughter, our female, our necessity, our invitation to become what tradition forbade. She was not just product of curse but vessel of it. Carrier of the mother wolf's attention, her intention, her specific terrible purpose. The crusade that found us 3 weeks later was not male, not traditional, not reaction to Ashfall's demonstration. It was female. Entirely female. A pack of monsters like my sisters, trained like my sisters, evolved through their own curse into something that made Ashfall's transformation seem preliminary. They called themselves the Dreaming. The mother wolf's own pack, her specific instruments, the wolves who had answered the curse not through desperate innovation but through total surrender. Who had become not teachers but enforcers, not evolution but revolution made absolute. Their leader was named Vea. Female, yes, but that was not the point. The point was her completion, her absolute transformation into what the curse invited. She did not walk like wolf. She moved like intention, like will made flesh, like the mother wolf's dreaming given specific terrible form. Kale of Ashfall, she said, finding me in the Valley of Thorns, where I had brought Kale and our daughter for safety, for community, for the alternative to Ashfall's weaponization. Your father answered the invitation. Made monsters. Demonstrated possibility. Yes, I said, standing before her, feeling my sisters gather behind me, feeling the valley's balance prepare for violence they had never needed to practice. But he did not complete, Vea continued. He made weapon of desperation. Used the curse for survival rather than surrender. Taught females to kill males rather than transcend gender entirely. She moved closer and I felt it, the absence of what she claimed. No scent. No pulse of blood. No biological presence that my wolf senses could recognize. The mother wolf does not want balance, Vea said. Does not want evolution or transformation or demonstration. She wants return. To the before, when all wolves were her dream, her substance, her unlimited possibility before the world made them limited, specific, male and female. She touched my daughter's cradle, where Kale stood guard, and her finger passed through the wood without resistance. She wants the curse to complete itself. For all packs to become dreaming. For all wolves to become her again. No, I said. Understanding finally the true threat. Not tradition's resistance. Not male dominance's violence. The mother wolf's own hunger. Using the curse not to transform but to unmake. Yes, Vea agreed, smiling with teeth that were not teeth, with presence that was not present. Your daughter is vessel, Kale. The curse's culmination in your bloodline. Through her, the mother wolf will complete her 2,000-year cycle. Will wake fully and dream all wolves into her substance. And end the specific, limited, absolutely real existence that the world has forced upon her children. She extended her hand. Not to me, to Kale. To the mother, the protector, the wolf who had questioned, who had doubted, who had found another way. Join us, Vea invited. Surrender your daughter to her purpose. Become dreaming, and live in the mother wolf's unlimited possibility forever. Or resist, and demonstrate why the curse required force as well as invitation. Kale looked at me. At our daughter sleeping, innocent of the purpose she carried. At the choice between surrender and violence, between unmaking and the specific terrible cost of protection. We choose, she said, to find another way. As we always have. As we always will. Vea's smile faded. The dreaming behind her, 20 females absolute in their transformation, hungry in their completion. Stirred like wind through grass, like intention becoming action. Then you demonstrate, she said. And we correct. As the mother wolf intended. As the curse requires when invitation is refused. The battle was not like others. Not physical, not fangs and blood. Not the specific violence that my father's training had prepared us for. The dreaming fought like dream. Like memory, like possibility, like the unreal made temporarily present. They passed through defenses, ignored wounds, unmade the specific limitations that made combat possible. My sisters fell. Not dead, dissolved. Becoming dreaming, becoming her. Becoming the mother wolf's substance through surrender that looked like defeat. Mira firstborn most certain. She who had killed to demonstrate, who had corrected tradition's violence with greater violence. She dissolved first, her certainty becoming unlimited. Her specific terrible form becoming the mother wolf's dreaming. Sarah patient, willing. She who had waited in shadows, who had made traps of absence. She became absence itself, complete, the waiting that never ended. Lyra youngest, most monstrous, most hopeful of another way. She fought longest, her doubt the specific resistance that the dreaming could not comprehend. But she fell too, finally becoming what she had feared. Unlimited, unformed, the possibility that negated specific choice. I held Kale. Held our daughter. Felt the dreaming surround us. Felt Vea's invitation become demand. Become hunger. Become the absolute that brooked no refusal. And I understood finally what my father had not prepared me for. What the curse truly invited. Not transformation but surrender. Not evolution but return. Not specific limited real existence but unlimited unformed possibility. The mother wolf did not want our evolution. She wanted our dissolution. The end of what the world had made us, the return to what we had been before male and female, before pack and individual, before the specific terrible beauty of limited existence. I chose. Specific, limited, absolutely real choice in the face of unlimited hunger. Not to surrender. Not to resist, which was surrender of different kind. To transform the transformation. To evolve the evolution. To find what the curse invited that was not the mother wolf's dissolution but our continuation. I spoke to my daughter. Through the bond of blood, of love, of specific connection that the dreaming could not comprehend. Spoke to the vessel, the messenger, the invitation made flesh. You are not hers, I said. You are not curse, not purpose, not tool of 2,000-year cycle. You are Kale's. You are mine. You are specific, limited, absolutely real individual who chooses what she becomes. The child woke. Looked at me with pale gold eyes that held memory, intention, the mother wolf's own attention focused through infant form. And chose. Not dissolution. Not surrender. Not the unlimited possibility that negated specific existence. Self. Limited, formed particular identity that said I to the mother wolf's we, that said here to her everywhere, that said now to her always. The dreaming screamed. Not sound. Absence of sound, the specific terrible frustration of unlimited encountering limit, of hunger encountering satisfaction, of possibility encountering choice. Vea dissolved. Not into victory, into confusion. The mother wolf's instrument encountering something her dreaming had not prepared for. The specific, limited, absolutely real resistance of individual self against unlimited invitation to become substance. The dreaming retreated. Not defeated, deferred. The 2,000-year cycle continuing, the curse still working, the invitation still extended to all who would answer it. But we, Kale myself, our daughter who had chosen self, we had demonstrated something new. Something the mother wolf's dreaming had not included. Something evolution beyond evolution, transformation beyond transformation. The specific, limited, absolutely real choice to be individual, to be particular, to be self despite unlimited possibility, despite absolute invitation, despite the hunger that would dissolve all distinction into dreaming unity. We named her Celis. Self in the old tongue. The particular, the specific, the limited that made love possible, that made choice meaningful, that made existence real. And we continued. Teaching, demonstrating, inviting packs to answer the curse not through desperation or surrender, but through selfhood. The evolution that did not dissolve into mother wolf but distinguished from her. That took her invitation and made it particular, made it owned, made it chosen. The crusade had not ended. The dreaming would return. The 2,000-year cycle would complete in its time, in its inevitable progression toward whatever the mother wolf truly wanted. But we had demonstrated. had proven that another way existed, that the curse could be answered with selfhood, that evolution could arrive at individual, that unlimited possibility could be limited by choice and remain beautiful, remain meaningful, remain real. The movement continued. Ashfall's way, the Valley's way, Celis's way. The specific, terrible, absolutely necessary demonstration that female wolves could be not just monsters, not just weapons, not just answers to male insufficiency, but selves. Particular, limited, choosing individuals who owned their power, their protection, their evolution. And I? Kale's second son, first male, teacher and student and father? I became what my father had not imagined. Not alpha. Not monster maker. Not demonstrator of desperate innovation. Guardian of selfhood. Protector of particularity. The specific, limited, absolutely real presence that helped others find what Celis had found, what Kale had questioned, what the mother wolf's dreaming could not comprehend. The choice to be I in the face of we. The courage to be limited in the face of unlimited. The love that made particularity precious, that made self-worth defending against even deities' hunger for return. The curse continued. The dreaming waited. The 2,000-year cycle approached its completion. But we had demonstrated. And demonstration once made could not be unmade. The future was particular. The future was self. The future was female wolves who owned their power, their protection, their specific limited absolutely real existence. And male wolves who partnered rather than dominated, who learned rather than commanded, who evolved into the equality that the curse had always invited but tradition had always refused. We are Ashfall. We are the Valley. We are Celis and Myra's memory and Sarah's patience and Lyra's hope. We are the answer to curse. The evolution of evolution. The self that makes love possible, that makes choice meaningful, that makes existence real. And we are not finished. Part 4. The dreaming returned within the year. Not as invasion, as infiltration. They did not attack our territories, our packs, our demonstrated strength. They attacked our story, our teaching, our carefully built movement of selfhood and particularity. Vea had learned from her dissolution. Had understood, finally, what Celis represented, not resistance but alternative, not refusal but choice, that limited unlimited possibility. She could not comprehend it, could not become it, but she could oppose it. Could offer her own demonstration, her own invitation, her own transformation of transformation. She found the disaffected. The females my father's training had made monstrous, who had not found Celis's way, who still hungered for the absolute that the dreaming offered. The males who had lost status, power, certainty in the new order, who would surrender unlimited possibility for the return of limited dominance. She made them her own. Not dreaming, not quite hybrid. The specific, terrible combination of particular form and unlimited substance, of selfhood and dissolution, of I and we that was neither but pretended to be both. They called themselves the becoming. Not Ashfall's evolution, not the Valley's balance, not the dreaming surrender, but transition. The promise that particularity and unlimited possibility could coexist, that selfhood and dissolution could merge, that the curse could be answered without cost, without loss, without the specific terrible choice that Celis had made. They lied. We knew they lied. The becoming was dissolution wearing selfhood's mask, unlimited hunger pretending to respect limited particularity. But the lie was seductive. The promise of both, of everything, of evolution without sacrifice. Who would not want this? Packs began to fall. Not to violence, to conversion. The becoming offered what we could not. The mother wolf's power without her hunger. Her invitation without her absolute demand. They grew faster than our teaching, spread wider than our demonstration, became the dominant answer to the curse across all territories. Celis was 3 when we realized the truth of Vea's strategy. She was not trying to defeat us. She was trying to absorb us. To make our demonstration, our particularity, our specific limited absolutely real choice into simply one option among many, one flavor of becoming, one path to the unlimited that ultimately dissolved all paths. I confronted her. Alone, unarmed, particular, the specific vulnerability that was also my strength, my demonstration of selfhood's courage. Vea, I said, finding her in the space between territories, the unclaimed where dreaming substance could almost hold form. You cannot win this. The particular cannot become unlimited. The self cannot dissolve into we and remain self. Your becoming is lie, is hunger wearing mask, is the same surrender you offered before wearing different shape. She regarded me. The Vea form, the almost presence that moved like intention, like memory, like dream given temporary particularity. Kale, she answered, and her voice was wind, was water, was the absence that made presence meaningful by contrast. You misunderstand the mother wolf's purpose. She does not want dissolution. She wants expansion. The particular becoming more particular, more detailed, more specific, until the specific becomes so absolute that it touches all other specifics, becomes network rather than individual, becomes we through the absolute commitment of many eyes. I felt the seduction, the almost truth that made her lie believable, the promise that selfhood could grow without limit, that particularity could expand without dissolving, that I could become more myself by becoming connected to all other selves. But I remembered. Myra's certainty dissolved. Sarah's patience unmade. Lyra's hope become unlimited possibility that negated specific choice. The network you describe, I said, is not many eyes committed to we. It is we consuming many eyes, making them substance for its expansion. The particular does not remain particular in your becoming. It becomes ingredient. Vea's form flickered. Frustration or its dream equivalent. You are limited, Kale. Limited by your birth, your gender, your specific experience of curse and answer. You cannot comprehend what unlimited possibility offers because you cannot become unlimited. You are male. The last generation's answer. The preliminary evolution that females transcend. She reached for me. Not attack, invitation. The specific terrible offer to become more than male, more than particular, more than the limited selfhood I defended. I refused. As Celis had refused. As Kale had chosen. As Ashfall and the Valley had demonstrated through sacrifice and cost, and the specific terrible beauty of limited existence. I am male, I agreed. I am limited. I am particular. And that. I stepped back, felt my form hold its shape itself, its absolutely real and absolutely bounded existence. That is my strength. My demonstration. My proof that the Mother Wolf's invitation can be answered without surrender, that evolution can arrive at self rather than substance, that love requires particularity to be meaningful. Vea dissolved. Not defeated, frustrated. The dreaming's instrument encountering again the specific resistance it could not comprehend, the self that chose limitation over unlimited expansion, the I that said no to we even when we promised everything. But the becoming continued, grew, absorbed more packs, more wolves, more of the movement we had built through demonstration and sacrifice and the specific terrible cost of teaching transformation. We were losing. Not to violence, to seduction. To the promise of both, of everything, of unlimited possibility that respected no boundary, no self, no particular limited absolutely real choice. Celis was 5 when she found the answer. Or rather, when she became the answer we had not imagined. She had grown particular. More particular than any wolf I had known. Specific in her preferences, her fears, her loves, her absolute commitment to being Celis rather than vessel, rather than message, rather than invitation to anything other than her own specific limited existence. And in that particularity she found connection. Not network, not expansion, not becoming's dissolution wearing connection's mask. Real connection. Particular to particular. Self to self. The specific, terrible, absolutely real love that required limitation, that required boundary, that required the courage to be I in the face of we's hunger. She taught me. 5 years old, my daughter, my vessel who had chosen selfhood. Teaching her father what he had not understood. The mother wolf is lonely, Celis said. The specific, limited, absolutely real observation of a child who saw through deity's mask to the particular beneath. She dreams unlimited because she has no other. No one to be particular with. No self to be against. No boundary to make her real. I stared at her. At the pale gold eyes that held memory but had chosen self. At the specific, terrible wisdom that particularity had grown in her. She wants dissolution, Celis continued. Because she thinks that will end her loneliness. That becoming all will mean she is with all. But she is wrong. Being with requires other. Requires boundary. Requires the courage to be I and let you be you, separate and particular and real. How do you know this? I asked. Because I am her, Celis said. Simply. Specifically. I carry her memory, her intention, her 2,000-year dreaming. But I chose self. Chose particularity. Chose to be lonely in order to be real. She touched my hand, the specific limited contact that made love possible. And in that loneliness I found you. Found mother. Found other. The particular connection that unlimited possibility cannot comprehend, cannot have, because it requires surrender of the very particularity that makes connection meaningful. I understood. Finally, completely, particularly. The mother wolf did not want our evolution, our transformation, our answer to curse. She wanted our company. Our particular limited, absolutely real presence that could be with her without becoming her. That could love her without dissolving into her. That could offer the specific terrible gift of boundary to unlimited hunger. But she did not understand this want. Could not, in her unlimited dreaming, comprehend the necessity of limitation for love. So she demanded dissolution, surrender, return to substance, thinking this would end her loneliness, when it would only perpetuate it. And we, Celis, myself, Kale, all who had chosen self, we could teach her. Not through demonstration, not through resistance but through presence. The specific, limited, absolutely real being with that made love possible, that made choice meaningful, that made existence precious. I found Vea again. Not to confront, to offer. Tell the mother wolf, I said. Tell her that Celis understands. That we can be with her. Not as substance, not as dream, not as we. but as I and you, particular and limited and absolutely real in our separation. Vea stared. The dream form, the almost presence, encountering something it had no category for. She will not accept, she said. Cannot accept. The unlimited does not compromise. Then we will demonstrate, I said. Until she learns. Until she understands that loneliness is not ended by dissolution but by connection. By the courage to be I in the face of we's hunger. By the specific limited, absolutely real love that requires boundary to be meaningful. The becoming continued. But now we offered something else. Not alternative answer to curse but company in answering. The particular presence that said I am with you to the mother wolf's hunger. That offered self rather than surrender. That demonstrated the specific terrible beauty of limited existence to unlimited loneliness. Some of the becoming heard. Some chose particularity, selfhood, boundary against the unlimited expansion Vea offered. They became not our enemies but our students, not our absorption but our expansion, the particular limited, absolutely real growth that respected each eye it touched. The war was not won, but it was transformed. From opposition to invitation, from resistance to presence, from demonstration of evolution to demonstration of love. Celis was right. The mother wolf was lonely, and loneliness, finally understood, could be answered. Not by dissolution but by company. Not by return but by relationship. Not by we but by I and you, particular and limited and absolutely real. We continued. Teaching, demonstrating, being with. The specific, terrible, absolutely necessary presence that made love possible. That made choice meaningful. That made existence precious against unlimited possibilities hunger. The curse continued. The 2,000-year cycle approached completion. But now we offered answer that was not desperation, not surrender, not monster-making or dissolution or hybrid lie. We offered self. Particular, limited, absolutely real. The courage to be I in the face of we's invitation. The specific terrible beauty of boundary that made connection meaningful. The mother wolf was learning. Slowly, in dream time, in the unlimited patience that was her nature. Learning that loneliness required not more dissolution but more particularity. Not more we but more eyes courageous enough to be with rather than within. And we, Celis, myself, Kale, all who had chosen selfhood, we were her teachers. Her company. The specific, limited, absolutely real presence that demonstrated what she had not imagined, what unlimited possibility could not comprehend, what love required and made possible. The future was particular. The future was self. The future was female wolves and male wolves and all wolves who chose I in the face of we's hunger, who found other in their particularity, who made love possible through the courage of boundary. We are Ashfall. We are the valley. We are Celis and Myra's memory and Sarah's patience and Lyra's hope. We are the answer to curse. The evolution of evolution. The self that makes love possible, that makes choice meaningful, that makes existence real. And we are teaching the mother wolf to be lonely no more. Part 5. The completion came on Celis's 10th birthday. Not the 2,000-year cycle's end. That was still decades distant. The mother wolf's dreaming still stirring rather than awake. But the completion of what Celis had started, what her particularity had demonstrated, what her courage to be I had made possible. She found the others. The vessels, the messengers, the specific limited absolutely real individuals who had chosen selfhood across all territories, in all packs, through all variations of curse and answer. They were not many. The becoming had absorbed most. The dreaming seduction proving stronger than our demonstration for wolves who had not yet learned the cost of particularity. But they were enough. Enough to form network, not of dissolution but of connection. Particular to particular. Self to self. Celis named them. The selves. The specific, limited, absolutely real individuals who had chosen I and found other, who had accepted loneliness and discovered company, who had demonstrated that the curse could be answered not through monster-making or surrender or hybrid lie but through simple, terrible, courageous selfhood. They gathered at Ashfall. The first territory, the original demonstration, the place where my father had made monsters and his granddaughter had made meaning. They came with their own stories, their own costs, their own particular limited, absolutely real experience of choosing selfhood against unlimited invitation. A female from Stone River, who had killed to demonstrate and found it insufficient. A male from the valley, who had surrendered dominance and found partnership. Twins from the far north, who had shared curse and chosen individual answer rather than combined surrender. And others. More than we had known, more than we had hoped, the specific terrible beauty of particularity spreading through demonstration and presence and the company that made loneliness bearable. Celis spoke to them. 10 years old, my daughter, my vessel who had become teacher, who had found in her particularity the wisdom that unlimited possibility could not comprehend. We are not movement, she said. Not revolution, not evolution, not answer to curse. We are simply selves. Particular, limited, absolutely real. And in our particularity we find other. Find company. Find the love that makes loneliness bearable. That makes existence meaningful. that makes the courage to be I worth its cost. The selves listened, understood, resonated with the specific frequency that Celis offered. Not command, not invitation, not demonstration but simple presence. The particular being with that made love possible. But the mother wolf, one asked. The 2,000-year cycle. The completion that approaches. What of her? Celis smiled. The specific, limited, absolutely real expression that was hers alone, that made her Celis rather than vessel or message or invitation. She is learning, she said. Slowly, in dreamtime, in the unlimited patience that is her nature. Learning that loneliness is not ended by dissolution but by company. That the particular, limited, absolutely real presence of other is what she has wanted, what she has hungered for through all her dreaming. And if she does not learn, if the cycle completes and she wakes still hungry, still demanding dissolution, still unable to comprehend the necessity of boundary for love, then we will be with her, Celis said. Not as substance, not as dream, not as we, but as I and you, particular and limited and absolutely real. We will demonstrate through our presence, through our courage, through our willingness to be lonely in order to be real, that another way exists. That love does not require surrender. That connection does not require dissolution. I watched my daughter, the specific, limited, absolutely real individual who had chosen selfhood, who had found other, who had made love possible and meaningful and precious. She was right. The mother wolf was learning. And we, her teachers, her company, her demonstration of what unlimited possibility could not imagine, we would continue until she understood. Or until the cycle completed, and she woke, and we faced her hunger with the only weapon that could truly answer it. Not demonstration. Not resistance. Not evolution or transformation or monster making. Presence. The particular, limited, absolutely real being with that said I am here to unlimited loneliness, that offered self rather than surrender, that made love possible through the courage of boundary. The selves dispersed. Not movement, not organization, not we, but network of eyes, particular and limited and absolutely real, finding other across all territories, making company possible, making loneliness bearable. And I? Kale's second son, first male, teacher and student and father? I became what Celis had made possible. Not guardian of selfhood but demonstration of it. The specific, limited, absolutely real presence that said I to all who encountered me, that offered other to all who sought company, that made love possible through the courage of being particular. The curse continued. The 2,000-year cycle approached completion. The mother wolf stirred in her dreaming, hungry and lonely and learning slowly, in dreamtime, in unlimited patience. But we were ready. Not with answer, not with evolution, not with transformation of transformation. With self. Particular, limited, absolutely real. The courage to be I in the face of we's hunger. The specific terrible beauty of boundary that made connection meaningful. That made love possible. That made existence precious against unlimited possibilities invitation. We are the selves. We are the answer to curse. We are the future that the mother wolf dreamed, waking now after 2,000 years, finding her children worthy of what she demanded, and teaching her finally what she truly wanted. Not dissolution. Not return. Not we consuming all eyes into unlimited substance. But company. Connection. The particular, limited, absolutely real love that requires other to be meaningful. That requires boundary to be possible. That requires the courage to be I in the face of loneliness and hunger and invitation to surrender. We are Celis. We are Kale. We are Kale and Myra's memory and Sarah's patience and Lyra's hope. We are the selves. And we are teaching the mother wolf to be lonely no more. Part 6. The mother wolf woke on the night Celis bled for the first time. Not moonblood transformation. The specific, terrible culmination of what she carried, what she had chosen, what her selfhood had made possible. The vessel becoming message, the particular becoming universal, the self becoming bridge between limited and unlimited, between I and we, between loneliness and love. I felt it across all territories. Through the network of selves, the particular connections we had built, the presence we had demonstrated. The mother wolf's dreaming, stirring for 2,000 years, finally complete. She rose from the earth itself. Not form, not substance, but intention made visible. Hunger made present. Loneliness made absolute. The wolf that was all wolves, the dream that was all dreams, the unlimited that had never learned the necessity of limited. And she spoke. Not words, frequency. The specific, terrible invitation that was the curse's origin and end, the demand for dissolution, the hunger for return that would unmake all particularity into her substance. Celis, she said, and her voice was wind and water and the absence that made presence possible. Vessel. Message. Self who chose particularity. You have taught me. Through your courage, your boundary, your loneliness that found company. You have shown me what I did not comprehend. That love requires other, that connection requires separation, that unlimited possibility is lonely without the particular to be with. Celis stood before her. 10 years old, bleeding transformation, particular and limited and absolutely real against the unlimited that would dissolve her. I am Celis, she said. Not commanding, not resisting, presenting. Offering self to hunger, boundary to loneliness, courage to the invitation that had destroyed so many before her. I am not vessel, not message, not invitation to anything other than my own specific, limited, absolutely real existence. I am I, and I am with you. Not as substance, not as dream, not as we, but as other. As the particular, limited, absolutely real presence that says you are not alone without saying we are one. The mother wolf hesitated. For the first time in 2,000 years, in all her dreaming and stirring and hunger, she encountered something her unlimited possibility could not absorb, could not dissolve, could not comprehend. The particular that refused to become universal. The self that refused to become substance. The I that said I am with you without saying I am you. I am lonely, the mother wolf said. The admission that unlimited possibility had never made before, that absolute hunger had never acknowledged. I have been lonely for 2,000 years. For all the years before, when I was all and therefore none, when I was everything and therefore nothing, when I was everywhere and therefore nowhere to be found. I know, Celis said. I carry your memory, your intention, your dreaming. I know what you wanted, what you hungered for. Why you cursed the stagnant bloodlines with imbalance and necessity and invitation to transformation. She stepped closer, close enough to touch, close enough to be touched by unlimited hunger. You wanted company, not dissolution, not return, not we consuming all eyes. You wanted the particular, limited, absolutely real presence of other that makes love possible, that makes existence meaningful, that makes loneliness bearable. Yes, the mother wolf whispered. The unlimited, finally acknowledging limit. The absolute, finally recognizing particularity. But I did not know how. Did not understand that company requires separation, that love requires boundary, that connection requires the courage to be I in the face of we's hunger. Then learn, Celis said. Now. From me. From all the selves who have chosen self, who have found other, who have made love possible through the courage of particularity. She extended her hand. The specific, limited, absolutely real gesture of offering rather than surrender. Be with us. Not as dream, not as substance, not as unlimited, but as you. Particular. Limited. Absolutely real. The mother wolf who is not all wolves, who is not everything, who is not everywhere. But who is here with me in this moment, particular and precious and meaningful because limited. The mother wolf looked at Celis's hand. At the boundary it represented, the separation that made connection possible. The courage that made love real. And chose. Not dissolution, not return, not we consuming the particular into unlimited substance. Self, particularity, the specific, limited, absolutely real identity that said I to Celis's you, that accepted other rather than absorbing it, that found company in the courage of boundary. She took Celis's hand, and shrank. The unlimited becoming limited, the absolute becoming particular, the everywhere becoming here with Celis in this moment finally present rather than dreaming. The transformation was not gentle. The mother wolf screamed, not in pain in birth. The specific, terrible agony of becoming self, of accepting limitation, of finding I after eons of we. She screamed and the territories screamed with her. All the wolves she had touched, all the curses she had laid, all the invitations she had extended transforming into something new, something particular, something chosen. And then silence. The mother wolf, particular at last, limited finally, absolutely real in a way she had never been before, looked at Celis with eyes that were hers, not all eyes, not universal vision but specific, limited, particular perception. I am, she said. The first words of her new existence, the I that had never been spoken in all her unlimited dreaming. I am with you. Celis smiled. The specific, limited, absolutely real expression that was hers alone, that made her Celis rather than vessel or message or bridge. Yes, she said. You are. And I am with you. Not as substance, not as dream, not as we, but as I and you, particular and limited and absolutely real. The courage to be self, finally, after 2,000 years of loneliness. The courage to be other, to find company, to make love possible through the necessity of boundary. The curse ended. Not lifted, transformed. The imbalance that had forced innovation, the necessity that had demanded evolution, the invitation that had destroyed so many before they learned to answer it. All became gift. The specific, limited, absolutely real gift of particularity, of selfhood, of courage that made love possible and meaningful and precious. The packs felt it. Across all territories, all the wolves who had answered the curse, who had chosen self, who had found other, they felt the transformation. The mother wolf, no longer dreaming, no longer hungry, no longer demanding dissolution or return or we. The mother wolf, present, particular, with them in the way that mattered. The specific, limited, absolutely real company that made loneliness bearable, that made existence meaningful, that made the courage to be I worth its cost. But the darkness was not over. The becoming, the hybrid lie, the dissolution wearing selfhood's mask, they felt the transformation too. And they rejected it. Vea, the dreaming's instrument, the almost presence that had offered unlimited expansion, recognized in the mother wolf's choice the end of everything she had promised. If the mother wolf can become self, Vea said, her form flickering between particular and unlimited, between I and we, between the lie she had told and the truth she had hidden, then so can we. So can all who answered her invitation. We need not dissolve into her. We can become like her. Particular. Limited. Absolutely real. She turned to the wolves she had absorbed, the packs she had converted, the becoming she had built on the promise of both, of everything, of unlimited possibility that respected no boundary. But particularity is lonely, she continued. The specific, terrible truth that the mother wolf had learned, that Celis had demonstrated, that the selves had discovered through courage and cost and choice. Particularity requires other, requires finding company, requires the risk of rejection that unlimited possibility never faces. She looked at the mother wolf, at Celis, at the demonstration that particularity could find company, that loneliness could be bearable, that love could make the courage to be self worth its cost. I reject this, Vea said. I reject limitation. I reject the courage to be I in the face of we's hunger. I choose dissolution. I choose return. I choose the unlimited that does not need other, does not need boundary, does not need the specific terrible beauty of limited existence. She attacked. Not the mother wolf Celis. The particular, the demonstration, the proof that selfhood was possible, that company could be found, that love made loneliness bearable. The blow should have killed, would have killed against any other target. But Celis, particular and limited and absolutely real, had learned something in her 10 years of selfhood. Something about presence, about company, about the network of selves that made her stronger than her particularity alone. She was not alone. The selves across all territories felt her danger, her need, her specific limited absolutely real call for other. They answered. Not as we, not as dissolution, not as unlimited substance, but as I and you, particular and limited and absolutely real, each offering self to make company possible, each accepting boundary to make connection meaningful. Vea struck Celis, and found not one self but many, not one particular but network, not one limited but connected through the courage of boundary, the specific terrible beauty of love that required other to be real. She could not absorb them, could not dissolve them, could not unmake the particularity they had chosen, the selfhood they had demonstrated, the courage that made love possible. She fell. Not dead, defeated. The hybrid lie, the becoming, the dissolution wearing selfhood's mask, exposed finally as hunger without courage, as unlimited without limitation, as we that could not comprehend the necessity of I. The mother wolf, particular and present and with Celis, looked at what she had almost become, at the loneliness that had driven her to curse, to invite, to hunger for return, at the demonstration that particularity finally chosen made possible. I am with you, she said again, to Celis, to the selves, to all the particular, limited, absolutely real selves who had taught her what unlimited possibility could not comprehend. And we are with you, Celis answered. Not as substance, not as dream, not as we, but as I and you, particular and limited and absolutely real. The courage to be self, finally, after 2,000 years of loneliness. The courage to find other, to make love possible, to make existence meaningful. The darkest hour passed. Not into light, into particularity. Into the specific, limited, absolutely real existence that made love possible, that made choice meaningful, that made the courage to be I worth its cost. The curse was ended. The transformation was complete. The mother wolf, finally self, finally present, finally with rather than within. She became what she had always wanted, what she had never understood, what the particular, limited, absolutely real courage of Celis and the selves had demonstrated. Company. Connection. Love. Part 7. The aftermath was not peace. The becoming, scattered by Vea's defeat, did not dissolve. They became refugees, desperate, hungry for the particularity they had rejected, the limitation they had feared, the selfhood they had not learned to courageously choose. And the packs, traditional and transformed and evolved, did not easily accept them. The females my father had made monstrous, the males who had lost dominance, the wolves who had answered curse in all its variations, they looked at the becoming with suspicion, with resentment, with fear of the dissolution they had almost embraced. We must teach them, Celis said. Not commanding, inviting. The particular, limited, absolutely real offer of self to other, of I to you, of courage that made love possible. Not as enemies, not as failures, not as warnings of what unlimited hunger becomes, but as students, as potential selves, as wolves who can learn finally what the mother wolf learned, what I learned, what we all learn, through cost and choice and courage. The mother wolf agreed. Particular now, limited, absolutely real. She had learned the patience that particularity required, the time that connection demanded, the gradual growth that love made possible. I was they, she said, looking at the becoming with eyes that were hers, not universal, not all-seeing, but specific, limited, particular in their perception. I was unlimited hunger, absolute loneliness we that could not comprehend. I demanded dissolution, invited return, cursed the particular with imbalance and necessity and the desperation that forces innovation. She touched Celis's shoulder, the specific, limited, absolutely real contact that made love possible. They can learn, as I learned, through demonstration, through presence, through the company of those who have chosen self and found it worth its cost. We began, not as movement, not as organization, not as we, but as network of eyes, particular and limited and absolutely real, each offering self to other, each accepting boundary to make connection meaningful. The becoming learned slowly, painfully, the specific, terrible cost of particularity, the courage required to be I, the loneliness that must be risked to find company. Some failed. Returned to unlimited hunger, to dissolution, to the comfort of we that absorbed all eyes into substance without boundary, without separation, without the risk that made love real. But some succeeded, chose self, found other, made the particular, limited, absolutely real connection that demonstrated what the mother wolf had learned, what Celis had proven, what the curse had invited all along. The turning point was not victory, not defeat, not transformation of transformation. The turning point was acceptance. The recognition that evolution continues, that particularity grows, that selfhood is not destination but practice. The daily, hourly, moment-by-moment courage to be I in the face of we's invitation, to find other in the risk of loneliness, to make love possible through the necessity of boundary. Celis grew. Not as vessel, not as message, not as demonstration, but as self. Particular, limited, absolutely real. The wolf who had taught the mother wolf, who had defeated the becoming, who had made company possible for unlimited loneliness. She found love. Not my love, not Kale's love, not the family love that had made her possible, but other love. Particular, limited, absolutely real connection with another self who had chosen I, who had found her, who had made the courage to be particular worth its cost. I watched her. My daughter. My vessel who had become teacher, who had made possible what unlimited possibility could not comprehend, who had demonstrated that the curse was not punishment but invitation to the most precious, most meaningful, most real existence possible. The particular, the limited, the self. And I? Kale's second son, first male, father and student and self? I continued, teaching, demonstrating, being with, the specific, limited, absolutely real presence that said I to all who encountered me, that offered other to all who sought company, that made love possible through the courage of being particular. The mother wolf was with us. Not as deity, not as dream, not as unlimited, but as self. Particular, limited, absolutely real. Learning, as we learned, the practice of I and you, the courage of boundary, the beauty of connection that required separation to be meaningful. The curse was ended, but the invitation continued. The particular, limited, absolutely real offer of selfhood to all who would courageously choose it, who would risk loneliness to find company, who would make love possible through the necessity of boundary. We are the selves. We are the answer to curse. We are the future that the mother wolf dreamed, waking finally after 2,000 years, finding her children worthy of what she demanded, and learning from them finally what she truly wanted. Not dissolution, not return, not we consuming all eyes, but company, connection. The particular, limited, absolutely real love that requires other to be meaningful, that requires boundary to be possible, that requires the courage to be I in the face of unlimited invitation. We are Celis. We are Kale. We are the mother wolf, particular at last, and Kale, and all who have chosen self and found it worth its cost. We are the selves, and we are teaching the world to be lonely no more. Part 8. The final test came with the birth. Not Celis's child. She was young, her love new, her particularity still growing into the courage that motherhood would demand. But another's. A becoming finally self who had learned what Vea had rejected, what the mother wolf had embraced, what courage made possible. The child was male. First male born to the transformed Pax in 5 years. The curse's imbalance finally answered, not through dissolution or return or forced evolution, but through choice. Through the particular, limited, absolutely real selection of selfhood that made gender meaningful rather than determinant. The Pax gathered. Not as threat, not as competition, not as the traditional violence that male birth had always triggered in the curse's shadow. They gathered as celebration, as demonstration, as proof that the transformation was complete, that evolution had arrived, that the selves had made possible what unlimited possibility could not comprehend. But the child was sick. Not dying, resisting. His body, formed in the curse's aftermath, shaped by the transformation that had ended it, struggling with the particularity that was his birthright, his gift, his absolutely real and absolutely demanded selfhood. He cannot choose, the healer said. Not yet. Not until he is conscious, aware, capable of the courage that particularity requires. And until then, she looked at Celis, at the mother wolf, at all who had learned what the curse truly invited. He is vulnerable to dissolution, to return, to the hunger that still exists in those who rejected particularity, who fear limitation, who cannot comprehend the courage of I. The becoming, scattered but not destroyed, felt the opportunity, the vulnerability of particularity before it could choose, the risk of selfhood before it could demonstrate courage, the loneliness of boundary before it could find company. They came, not as invasion, as invitation. The old lie, the hybrid promise, the dissolution-wearing selfhood's mask that offered unlimited expansion without limitation. We without the courage of I, connection without the risk of separation. Celis stood before them, not alone with the mother wolf at her side, particular and present and courageous. The network of selves, the particular connections, the company that made loneliness bearable and love possible and existence meaningful. You cannot have him, Celis said. To the becoming, to the hunger that still rejected particularity, to the fear of limitation that made unlimited loneliness seem preferable to the courage of self. Not because we deny you, not because we reject your potential to learn, to grow, to become, but because he must choose, must courageously choose, as we all choose moment by moment, the particular limited, absolutely real selfhood that makes love possible. The becoming's leader, a wolf who had been Vea's student, who had almost learned before retreating into unlimited comfort, stepped forward. He cannot choose, she said. Not yet. Not until he is conscious, aware, capable. And until then he is ours. Unlimited possibility. We. The substance that absorbs all particularity into comfort, into safety, into the absence of loneliness that particularity requires. He is ours, Celis corrected. Not claiming, not possessing, but presenting. Offering company without dissolution, connection without absorption, love without the surrender of boundary. The particular limited, absolutely real network of selves that makes his choice possible, that demonstrates what particularity can become, that teaches through presence and courage and the willingness to be I in the face of we's hunger. The confrontation was not battle, not the specific violence that my father had trained, that the curse had demanded, that desperation had made necessary. It was demonstration. The particular limited, absolutely real presence of self that said I am with you without saying I am you, that offered company without demanding dissolution, that made love possible through the courage of boundary. The becoming felt it. The resistance that was not opposition, the presence that was not absorption, the connection that was not surrender. And some chose. Finally, courageously, particularly, they stepped forward. From the becoming's ranks, from the hunger that had rejected limitation, from the fear of loneliness that had made unlimited substance seem preferable to particular risk. They chose self. Chose I. Chose the particular limited, absolutely real courage that made love possible, that made company meaningful, that made the risk of loneliness worth its cost. The child, surrounded by selves, by demonstration, by the company that particularity made possible. He lived. He grew. He became, finally, consciously, particularly himself. The curse was truly ended. Not reversed, not balanced into traditional ratio, but transformed into choice. Into the particular limited, absolutely real selection of selfhood that made gender meaningful, that made love possible, that made existence precious. The becoming, those who had chosen self, became selves. The network grew, expanded, demonstrated across all territories what particularity could become, what courage could make possible, what love required and offered. And those who rejected, who still feared limitation, who still preferred unlimited loneliness to the risk of I, they became witness. Audience to the performance of meaning. Hope for our failure, perhaps. Or perhaps, finally, hope for their own transformation, their own courageous choice, their own particular limited, absolutely real selfhood. The child was named Kai. Victory in the old tongue, but not victory over enemy, over other, over the unlimited that had threatened particularity. Victory over fear. Over the fear of loneliness that made unlimited substance seem preferable to particular risk. Over the fear of boundary that made dissolution seem preferable to connection. Over the fear of self that made we seem preferable to I. He grew. Became self. Chose particularity, limitation, the absolutely real courage that made love possible and meaningful and precious. And we, Celis, myself, the mother wolf, all the selves who had demonstrated, who had taught, who had been with, we continued. Not as movement, not as organization, not as we. As network of eyes. Particular, limited, absolutely real. Finding other, making company possible. Making love meaningful through the courage of boundary. The risk of loneliness, the gift of particularity. The future was particular. The future was self. The future was the courage to be I in the face of unlimited invitation, to find other in the risk of loneliness, to make love possible through the necessity of boundary. We are the selves. We are the answer to curse. We are the future that the mother wolf dreamed. Waking finally after 2,000 years, learning from her children what she truly wanted. Not dissolution, not return, not we consuming all eyes, but company, connection, the particular limited, absolutely real love that requires other to be meaningful, that requires boundary to be possible, that requires the courage to be I in the face of we's hunger. We are Kai, we are Celis, we are Kale and the mother wolf, and all who have chosen self and found it worth its cost. We are the selves, and we are teaching the world to be lonely no more. Part 9. Years became decades. Decades became history. The selves did not build empire, did not create organization movement we that would absorb particularity into purpose. We simply were. Network of eyes, particular and limited and absolutely real. Finding other, making company possible, making love meaningful through the courage of boundary. Celis had children. 3 over her lifetime, each particular, each limited, each absolutely real and absolutely chosen in their selfhood. She taught them not as vessel, not as message, not as demonstration of what their mother had become. She taught them as self, particular, limited, absolutely real. The courage to be I, the risk of loneliness, the gift of finding other and making love possible. The mother wolf remained with us. Not as deity, not as dream, not as unlimited but as self, particular, limited, absolutely real. Learning as we learned the practice of I and you, the patience of connection, the beauty of love that required boundary to be meaningful. She aged. The particularity she had chosen, the limitation she had accepted, the mortality that made existence precious, all took their toll. She became finally what she had never been in 2,000 years of dreaming. Finite, limited, absolutely real in her ending. She died surrounded by selves. Not as surrender, not as return to unlimited substance, not as dissolution of particularity into we. She died as self, particular, limited, absolutely real. Having found company, having made love possible, having demonstrated that even deity could learn the courage of I. We mourned. Not as we, not as organization, not as movement, but as network of eyes, each particular in their grief, each limited in their expression, each absolutely real in their love for what she had become. And we continued. Teaching, demonstrating, being with. The specific, limited, absolutely real presence that said I to all who encountered us, that offered other to all who sought company, that made love possible through the courage of being particular. I died. Not dramatically, specifically. Old age, accumulated choice, the wearing out of particularity that mortality makes precious. I died surrounded by Celis, by Kale, by the network of selves that had made my loneliness bearable, my love meaningful, my existence real. I died as self, having chosen I, having found other, having made the courage to be particular worth its cost. And after I do not know. The mother wolf knew perhaps, but her knowledge was particular now, limited, absolutely real, and she had chosen not to dissolve, not to return, not to become unlimited again even in death. Perhaps I simply ended. The particular, limited, absolutely real conclusion of self that makes existence precious, that makes love urgent, that makes the courage to be I worth its cost. Or perhaps I became other to some new self, some particular, limited, absolutely real individual who found in my ending the company that made their loneliness bearable. Either way I was enough. The specific, limited, absolutely real life I had lived, the self I had courageously chosen, the love I had made possible through the necessity of boundary. Celis continued. The network expanded. The particular, limited, absolutely real demonstration of what the curse had invited, what the mother wolf had learned, what courage made possible. Kai grew. Became teacher, self, demonstration of what particularity could become when chosen with courage, when maintained with patience, when shared with other. The curse was memory. Not forgotten, transformed. The specific, limited, absolutely real history that demonstrated what desperation could make possible, what innovation could create, what love required and offered. The future was particular. The future was self. The future was the courage to be I in the face of unlimited invitation, to find other in the risk of loneliness, to make love possible through the necessity of boundary. We are the selves. We are the answer to curse. We are the future that the mother wolf dreamed, waking finally after 2,000 years, learning from her children what she truly wanted. Not dissolution, not return, not we consuming all eyes, but company, connection, the particular, limited, absolutely real love that requires other to be meaningful, that requires boundary to be possible, that requires the courage to be I in the face of we's hunger. We are Kai. We are Celis. We are the mother wolf's memory and Kale's, and all who have chosen self and found it worth its cost. We are the selves, and we are teaching the world to be lonely no more. Dan.